what happens to the young people that are on the streets? I mean, we'll all drive by, you get to a robot, these young people performing on the side of the road. But no one ever thinks about what is the story of this young person and how did they end up there. In fact, they've become invisible individuals to the extent that we've normalized their invisibility. We walk past them. You know, you see them, people close their window, or they drive past, they look away and so forth. But these are young people who are saying, look at me, I have a talent. I just need assistance. It could be someone who comes from various provinces in the country, because as you know, Gauteng continues to be viewed as the Hollywood of the country. People travel from far, coming from rural parts of KZN, Eastern Cape and so forth. Young people with great talent, whether it be sports or in arts, and they just want to display their talent. So they come from far, they come into the province looking for that one big break. And when they don't get it, after knocking on so many doors, whether it be SABC, it be Sony, wherever they knock, they end up on the street and no one pays attention to them. What happens to them after that? Then they fall through the cracks. They end up on the streets and they turn that positive energy that they had and towards negative activities. So they'll end up with Nyaope and etc. and etc.
My name is Mpho Gift Tlhahane, also known as Marshmallow the Naughty Juggler. I'm here at Bryanston entertaining people at the street. I'm with my student here. He's known by Chocolado.
If like mhlambe ngoDecember makuthiwa silahle incwadi khona sokwazi ukubanika imali ngoba sebathi manje sebefuna imali yabo if ndahle i-textbook.
I'm doing this to make living. I have a kid at home. That is the reason why I'm juggling in the street. I make roughly 1,000 it depends. The support we need from our government is props, juggling props and safety. That's all we need.
Monthly, weekly, we do activities. We can provide a platform for them to perform, and we know that they'll get remunerated in one way or another. That begins to create a sustainable income for them. But then we need departments like social development to also assist us. How can we ensure that they get food packs? How can we put them in shelters and etc.? So we need to work together, but at least have a program and a plan of how we reach everybody, even those that people have forgotten about. Outside of the youth that are sitting in the corners, outside of the youth that are organized, you have this sector, you have these other young people that are there. Let's not make them invisible, and I think the department is here to hear them out.
Born and bred in Gauteng, Mbali Hlophe is a vibrant, determined fire that's taken over the Gauteng sport, arts, culture and recreation sector with ambition and intent to literally change the game. Not a foreigner to politics, Mbali Hlophe is also spokesperson for the Gauteng branch of the ANC Youth League as well as the PEC member. Since Mbali Hlophe took office in the Gauteng Sport and Arts, it's been a time full of challenges, successes, and the spread of COVID-19. Amongst her early achievements in her post, she has repositioned the department into a more people-centric entity by strengthening the different corridors that represent Gauteng. The colorful sector of sport and arts has become even more characterized with events like the carnival and the street talents that she has given more platform to. Mbali Hlophe has always had a passion for grassroots sport and art development, and it was no surprise when she brought back the Wednesday League in schools, a culture that used to unearth talent back in the day, and it has given the province its legends in sport. She also launched the Sport Bra campaign that seeks to empower a girl child in sports and leveling the playing field for greater participation. 2020 has come with its own blessings and challenges. Certainly COVID-19 has and remains a huge stumbling block and an antithesis to sports and arts. Forever being the one to see the silver lining, this became an opportunity for Mbali Hlophe to take her department fully into fourth industrial revolution, embracing digital economy. She is well on her way to establishing multiple libraries around Gauteng and even launched the virtual library in accordance with COVID-19 health regulations and social distancing. The MEC has also created a digital platform for many talented sport and arts individuals across the province who are unable to make a living due to national breakdown. Mbali Hlophe is both concerned with the business and wellness of sport and art. She's creating a perpetual digital platform that looks at the business of sport and art, but also collaborated with the health department in trying to ensure the wellness of custodians within the sport and art to reduce the medical bill of the province. Her heart is always in the right place, and given the challenges of COVID-19, the MEC engaged a few good friends in an unprecedented food drive for individuals within the sport and art that are hardest hit by the COVID-19 health regulations and unable to make ends meet. She has recently announced a COVID-19 relief fund for sport and art custodians within the province, which will see them earning a monthly stipend till year end while we observe the national lockdown in trying to curb the spread of COVID-19. Gauteng is truly home of champions, and it couldn't have chosen a better person to champion its mission. MEC Mbali Hlophe is only beginning to weave change in the department and has embraced the digital space in trying to expose Gauteng champions to the rest of the world under the banner of growing Gauteng together. Her legacy will be defined by #GautengCares, the constant theme in all her programs.
generation make sure that we try and keep up with the trailblazers in the sporting world, whatever side they are, especially knowing that at a time like this, we want to focus on youth power growing South Africa through this pandemic that is COVID-19. And of course, we have a lot of changing factors. So we're going to be catching up with the trailblazers from different industries, whether it's administration, whether it's marketing, people with disability, and of course from school sports. So joining us today is Thabang Mazibuko. We also do have Dumisani Chauke, Jessica Ward, and Ipeleng Khunou. Let's start with Dumisani. Dumisani Chauke, we know you as the Spa Priorities Assistant Coach. You've also founded the Dumisani Chauke and Netball Foundation. But can you elaborate to us exactly who is Dumisani Chauke?
Okay, so Dumisani Chauke is a tall kid that was born in the small township of Malamulele in Limpopo a couple of years ago. She grew up there, moved down to Polokwane, carried on with sport, moved to Port Elizabeth. Most people know her through netball, although netball is still not her first love. Basketball is, but that's a story for another day. Fast forward today, she is the Spa Proteas netball assistant coach.
Yeah, and Thabang, we know you also for the wild experience that you've had through football. You've worked with the Africa Cup of Nations through marketing. But when you take a look at BMT specialists, what is that?
Thank you so much for having me, Thatho, and thank you very much to the Gauteng Sports Department. So yeah, BMT is a sport PR and marketing company. As you've said, it's founded purely based on the relevant experience that I generated working across different local organizing committees of the AFCON and the CHAN, and working on different other sports PR agencies. So we're basically a young sports PR company. And, we identified a niche where we saw that there is a lack of young creative minds that are occupying such a space of sports marketing and PR. There are those, the tried and tested, which we greatly appreciate and respect in the industry. But we just felt that, there's maybe a bit of room for some fresh thinking, for some creative minds. Sports marketing is not, or sport in South Africa is not solely limited to the big three of football, rugby, and netball. So young minds are able to not only push and improve other sporting codes, but there's certain ways that, we can actually introduce new concepts that can be included in the already existing sporting codes so that we can appeal to a wider audience and a variety of people that can actually start enjoying sport.
Well, Thabang spoke about football. Let's cross over to a young lady who's definitely made her mark in the footballing world. Jessica Wade, you're from JVW Stars. Can you elaborate exactly what your footballing career has all been all about?
Thank you so much. I started playing football when I was 7 years old, and I was lucky enough to join JVW in 2015. And it really took off from there. An all-girls club, an excellent opportunity to have, and I got to play in the Sasol League. And then I joined the under-17 national team through trials, and now I'm their captain, and I was play for the under-20 national team.
Ah, nice. Ipeleng, we also know you for trying to and inspiring us for that story of trying to get from Centurion to Cape Town. But as a person living with a disability, especially in the sporting area, can you elaborate also what it is you've been trying to do to make sure that people know who Ipeleng Khunou is?
Yeah, sure. I've been obviously, I've been like doing a whole lot of home running where I would just take clips to show people what exactly I do, at home, trying to elaborate more what is running on crutches and so on. And the other thing that what the lockdown has actually given me a chance to is I've been sharpening my skills to, get better with rowing, because I'm actually hoping that I might be going to the Paralympics doing rowing there, since running on crutches is not yet a Paralympic sport.
That's actually very interesting to talk about rowing. I do know that you've been busy with Tux, but the Gauteng Department of Sports, Arts and Culture and Recreation basically brought us here together to discuss youth who are trying to power grow South Africa, especially during this unprecedented time, which is the COVID-19 pandemic. I think a lot of us have seen young people try to be creative in their different spaces and reach out to everyone. We've seen social media growing. We're on a platform chatting today. And Dumisani, let me start with you. I know that when the pandemic started, you also made sure to take the lead with regards to social media and making sure that on Instagram, that's how you get through with your programs.
Yeah, absolutely, Thatho. One thing that COVID-19 has done to all of us, it literally stopped time for everyone to catch a breath, number one. Number two, it literally forced us to think of other ways on how we do the things that we do, be it training, be it coaching, be it mentorship, be it teaching life skills, and also other aspects of sport. So me, myself, I realized my coaching doesn't stop because COVID-19 is here.
Yeah.
Yes, the physical interaction with players has stopped due to the regulations, and no group training sessions are allowed still, even now on advanced level 3, so we call it.
Yeah.
So what we then did started off with TUT, and then it went just blew out from there. But we started coaching from home using cell phone to take videos, and we upload those videos on WhatsApp groups, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and it just, like you said, it blew up from there, because now all of a sudden I could coach some of my players that are in Mpumalanga, some that are in Cape Town, some that are in KwaZulu-Natal, without having that physical interaction, but showing them how to do the exercises, making sure that they're still keeping fit.
And what kind of challenges have you found with social media? Because then comes in the element of data and access to these things in areas like Mpumalanga and Limpopo, Dumisani.
So thank you for that question, because that is one of the real life challenges that I deal with personally, especially with me coaching and working at the Tshwane University of Technology. Yeah. So there, I deal with players in your lowest of lowest, and players that rely heavily on bursaries, on NSFAS to fund their studies. So when you're dealing with those kind of players, sometimes you have that some have smartphones, some don't have smartphones. Before we even get to the data problem, by the time we get to data, it's literally about, okay, so those that do have data and smartphones, I send the programs to them. Those that those that don't have smartphones and data, I have them on the list. And every week I give them a call. I have to literally call and explain the exercise to them, explain the program, or SMS the program first, let them go through it, give them a call, ask, do you understand exercise 1? This is how long you're going to do it. This is how you're going to do it. If you're not sure, ask someone, because sometimes they use their neighbor. They ask their neighbors for their cell phone. Yeah, I said, if you're not sure, ask someone who has a phone, who has a smartphone. Sometimes I transfer data to them. That person takes like a 60-second video. They send it through to me. Then I give the feedback. Okay, you're doing well. Keep it up. This is what you're going to do for the next 6 weeks. And I'm also assisting them in terms of how to change when the periodization change, how to either we're doing more sets, or we do more reps. So it's been challenging, Thatho. And I think one of the interviews that I did, I think it was Front Runner, I can't remember where, and the title of that article was "The Gap Between the Haves and the Have-Nots," and that is what COVID through sport, not in a negative way, but just showing the huge gap that exists between those that have access to things and those that don't. And it's a gap that is going to take years for us to address, but we need to start somewhere.
Thabang, have you found that you've had to change your business model and approach to marketing and media, especially during this COVID time? I think we all know that the sports industry has been deeply, deeply hit. But how have you had to change your model and how you approach the sporting world, especially during this pandemic?
Sorry. Yes, most definitely, Thato. It's been very difficult, I must say. You know, I think the nature of sports, it thrives on, you know, people being present in that particular stadium or arena
Yeah.
or court. So yes, we do try to move things onto an online consumption, but it will definitely take a bit of time for us to adapt to the so-called new norm of doing things online. But yes, we definitely had to improvise in terms of the campaigns that we're doing. So for instance, one of the campaigns that we do with a certain brand is that we go into certain townships or rural areas where we distribute playing kit or equipment or training equipment. But now that you know, we couldn't move physically, we had to take things online, where we invited certain sporting personalities
Yeah.
just to have a discussion about that particular sporting code. And then during that discussion, we would then announce that, okay, on such and such a date, we will be going to such and such a place, and we will be donating equipment or training kits. So in that way, not only are we taking the box of the core objective of what we're doing, but there's also that online engagement
Yeah.
with the audience that we're able to do. However, the challenge about that, you know, as Dumisani has mentioned, is the fact that not everyone has access to Wi-Fi or to data, you know. So being online and watching a video that's about, you know, 20 minutes is not so practical for everyone. So then we then need to be creative in terms of, so if you're putting together a webinar or a training session, you need to somehow make it short and brief, but at the same time not make it, within its shortness, it needs to be highly impactful, so that number one, it's understood, and secondly, you know, you've covered all the information that you've gotten. So I think it's an ongoing transformation that we're going to be having to adapt to. I know there's been campaigns of data must fall. I don't know how far that is. But I think hopefully once I mean we get into hopefully, I mean the relevant people are realizing the importance of making data easily accessible to everyone, because I think that's definitely the direction the whole country is taking.
It's really interesting to hear, Thabang, you speak about how the world is changing and the youth is at the core of that change, you know, because we are the ones who use social media platforms. We are the ones who these programs are designed for. And speaking of programs, Jessica, it must be so difficult for yourself as well, as an active sportswoman, usually on the pitch week in, week out. And as COVID-19 came about, how did you handle the stress of physically not being out there, trying to keep fit, mentally trying to keep fit, and knowing that there's no contact sport as yet, Jess?
Yeah, no, I found it very difficult, especially at the start of lockdown, to kind of comprehend what was happening.
Yeah.
But as it's gone on, you know, coaches have adapted and we've adapted, and we've kind of learned to just go with it, because there's nothing that we can do about it, and we had to look at it in a positive way and get the most out of it that we could. So we've been doing online training sessions, we've been sending programs back and forth, just working day in, day out, trying to maintain the level that we were at and just trying to keep the positivity. So we're trying to do fun videos as a team, you know, just trying to keep the spirit and keep everybody in a positive mindset, so that when we go back, it's not such a big setback.
And are you finding, Jess, that it was very easy for you guys to move away from the physical training and in those first few weeks to then do the virtual training sessions? And was everybody actually playing a part? You know, some people can get a bit lazy and be like, oh, today I don't want to come to training, I don't want to do the session. But have you found that there were some difficulties in the beginning?
Yeah, I think it was quite difficult, you know, trying to get used to the new system, everybody trying to find their feet, you know. But the commitment's been really good. People keep coming to sessions, you know, they're working hard. We're trying to encourage each other to keep training every single day, and it's going really well at the moment.
That's really great. Ipeleng, you know, Jess speaks about this new normal and training, but I do know that, like we spoke about, government has gazetted it. A couple of sporting codes can return to some form of training. Contact sport, not as yet, but soon we'll have it be back. But you're trying to attain something that's absolutely amazing, joining the Paralympics with the rowing team. But how has COVID-19 affected your prospects of trying to make sure you at least qualify for 2024? Because, I mean, at this point in time, when you look at 2021, it's almost null and void.
Yeah, it's been quite stressful because of I'm not yet classified, as you know, with disability sport. You need to get classified so that they can know exactly who you're going to be competing against. So at the moment, that's probably like my biggest, heartache that I'm currently stressing on, you know. And apart from that, well, I suppose we've all adapted, you know, in our own ways. And yeah, I think at the moment I'm just hoping that the classifications and everything else will open so that I can get classified. But I must say the lockdown, it has helped me to improve, my core. I've been doing a lot of home exercises, working on my core and so on. So physically, I've improved from where I was to where I could be, you know. Yeah.
But not being able to also physically get into the water, you know, feel the paddles, that must be a bit challenging, Ipeleng.
Yeah, it is a massive stress, but yeah, you try and do what you can do. Otherwise, yeah, you're gonna go crazy if you don't, if you focus too much on it. So I've been trying to do like a whole lot of mental strength exercising as well, because of you need to be ready for whatever is coming right now. So yeah.
And you know, Ipeleng, that's also what we are here for, to take a look at how COVID-19 has changed the sporting model for most of us. And you're saying that now you're focusing on your core, but what else did you find that you've learned during COVID-19 about yourself, about your sport, and what you'd like to do following the pandemic?
I think from a whole lot of sports, for a whole lot of athletes living with disabilities, I found that it was a bit of a shock, because of now all of a sudden you can't train because most of the athletes need assistance. You know, you need someone to carry your chair for you and stuff like that. So that has been like probably one of the biggest shocks that I had, and I'm not sure I'm not alone in this, but knowing that how much you need another person to help you to get by. So yeah.
Quite interesting, Dumisani, especially when you take a look at the fact that Ipeleng is right. He does need the help to go through that training, but at least he's trying to do something at his own corner to keep fit. And I come back to you as the assistant coach of the SPA approaches. You've worked to the lengths and breadths with tons of young girls. What have you found has been challenging with everybody working on their own from a side of a coach? Because Jess and Ipeleng are saying they're trying their best, but as a coach, what are the challenges you found?
Well, like Jess was saying, well, both Jess and Ipeleng were saying basically that adapting to this new normal was quite a bit of a challenge. And I think it still is, because now how do we move on now with knowing that the facility you play in now all of a sudden needs to be sanitized. How many times does it need to be sanitized? Now, in terms of physical contact and coaching players, how are we going to do that wearing masks? So those are some of the adaptations, which then the key word there being adaptation coming in. Leading on to that, it's very hard to stay motivated for a goal that you cannot see.
Yeah.
And that is not only for athletes. It's even for someone that was planning on pursuing a certain career, someone that was looking to pursue their studies. All of a sudden, things changed. So it's kind of hard to stay motivated when the goal is not there or the goal has been shifted. But with that shift, it then bears the question of motivation. Remember, there's two sources of motivation, or motivation is derived from two sources, either internal motivation or external motivation. So players, athletes, people that are internally motivated, they don't need me as a coach to check up on them every day. Did you do your sit-ups? Did you do your? Did you do your? And yeah, so those are internal motivated players or people. And then there's external motivated people that rely on something, that they're always working towards something, or they know that, okay, in 6 months' time, if I do this, I'll get that.
Yeah.
And also the external in terms of, okay, so I'm here, I'm in a group, there's a competition, I'm going to win. So the motivation part, especially for players, I know, never mind players, me, myself, I know I had a conversation with you the other day and I told you that some days I wake up and everything is perfect. I exercise, I get on with my son's schoolwork, and then I do my own schoolwork, I do my emails, and then there are days where I wake up and I'm like, now what? Like, okay, COVID. What do we do now? What's next? And one thing that I always say to players and to people that ask me about those kind of things, it is the emotionally intelligent or emotionally mature people that know how to take those bad days, go through them and say, you know what, the sun will shine again and tomorrow we will try again. So from adaptation to motivation to mental toughness, and also understanding you won't always be positive. It's okay. You're not a robot. You're human. Take the bad days. Just there are days where you don't want to train. And it's okay if you don't want to train. Just communicate with your coach that, coach, I'm not lazy. Today, emotionally, mentally, I'm just not feeling well. And it's okay, because we as coaches, we understand, because we go through those as well every single day.
You know, Dumisani, I like the fact that you touched on those three factors, because I was going to ask the whole panel about the positives. Of course, COVID-19 has had a very negative on the sporting world, but the positives from this time that you've each found from your different avenues. And I like the fact that, Dumisani, you touched on the fact that we don't always have to be strong go-getters and the super athletes that we are every single day in the field entertaining people, but you can take it every day as a time. So the positives from each of you from COVID-19 with regards to your career and what you do. Thabang, let's start with you.
I wish I had a coach like Dumisani while I was coaching. You just say, coach, I don't feel like training today. But I think the positives from my side, I almost see this period as a restart, almost as a restart for everyone, particularly in my space. I mean, for us young people, it's the main challenges that we always have when we are approaching certain brands or federations and we want to propose something, is the fact that, number one, we young, so they almost they can't really trust us with certain tournaments or budgets. Number two, the resources, it does become a bit challenging at times. So I almost see this opportunity as a phase where, now that federations and brands and sponsors are forced to now think outside of the box, it almost opens up a new avenue of saying, okay, you know what, for us to move forward, we can't now still be doing things the tried and tested way, because we need to now be innovative in terms of how we reach our audience or our fans. I guess that's now opening an avenue for us young entrepreneurs or young people that are creative and want to approach or offer a new offering when it comes to sports consumption or sports marketing. So that's the one positive I will take. And as difficult as it may be, as I had mentioned, that sport thrives on the physical presence of fans and spectators. I think the innovation is now going to be required. So even when we go back to being present at the netball courts or the football stadiums, I think there's still that opportunity for brands. They actually now see the importance of being digitally savvy or appealing more to a younger market, a market that's not physically present at the arena but watching on their phones or their TV. So that's the one opportunity that I've personally identified for myself, that it's been difficult, but now the playing fields are almost level for us to raise our hands and say, hey guys, we also here, we can also do it. We can do it even better than the way that you've been doing it all this time.
Ipeleng?
Yes, for me, it's been, I'd say lockdown was probably better than, I had it better because I think I won a first virtual race where I was running against, no longer an able-bodied thing, but yeah, I won a virtual race, stuff like that. And like I said, collaborations with sponsors that were not there to see me, where because of now, it's not so cluttered with the football and everything else. People can actually recognize that you actually work hard and you do your best as well. So that for me, I've gained some, good partnerships, and I also got to collaborate with a couple of athletes and so on. So for me, that's been just an amazing time to just grow as an athlete and as a human. Yeah.
That's really cool. And for you, Jess?
I think the positives that can be taken out is sportsmen can reflect during this time, and they can really work on those weaknesses and make them into their strengths. And it also, I think it allows us to see who really has a champion mindset. It's those days that you don't feel like training, you don't really want to do anything, but you get up, you work, get back into it. And for me, I think that was a really important thing to see, that every day you can get up, you can work, and it doesn't matter what your mood is, and that's what's going to make you great one day.
That's really, really cool. I really like what you all said. And Dumisani, for yourself?
For me personally, it's been an opportunity to be at home, because during this time of the year we're on the road. We're preparing for tournaments. There's TNL, there's USA, there's varsity, and then there's the internationals coming. So just being able to be home with my kids and be a mom, that has been the biggest positive for me. Second to that would the benefits of coaching from home, having to do the exercises myself, shedding off some of my baby weight. So yeah.
I'm just going back on what Ipeleng has said, especially noting that we're talking about youth growing during COVID. I like the fact that you mentioned that now you've participated in virtual races where it doesn't matter anymore whether you're able-bodied, whether you're a disabled sportsman. And this also goes through to the mission that you have for the 2024 Paralympics.
Yes, like I said, for me, the most important thing was to get out this year and actually to show that I'm actually a sports person, because I've been getting a whole lot of people who would say, well done, like it's in a nice way, it's in a nice way. They congratulate me, but they do not take you as a sports. They do not take you seriously as a sports person. Even when you make the Paralympics, it's been a matter of, oh yeah, we've heard of Paralympics, so so now because of they see me posting videos of me training every day, they're like, oh, so you actually literally train every day, and people are shocked. So which is amazing for me, yeah.
Thabang, you also spoke about how it's really cool how yes, COVID-19 is a negative pandemic across the world, but the positive thing is that now companies are forced to change their strategy, marketing strategy, and especially taking a look at younger people, because you're very right. You get these big tournaments, and unfortunately, most of the time they do end up giving them to those marketing companies that have been around for years and not trusting the young people who also actually do know the groundwork to take the baton and actually take over these big tournaments. And when you take a look at how young people are now being involved because of this pandemic, do you think it's going to change after COVID-19?
Hopefully not, Thato, because if you look at what's been happening when it comes to, so I'll take a typical example of the football tournaments that we see. I won't mention any particular brand. But if you look at the marketing and the campaigns that are running, it's more or less it's basically the very same thing, just different colors or different brands, you know. And you realize the fact that it whether fans are coming to the stadium or not, it really makes no difference unless it's the so-called bigger teams that are playing. So for me, it's a fact that, you know what, yes, there are people or certain brands or certain companies that have done well to take the sports industry and put it to where it is today. But I think where we are now is the fact that back then, when you were watching football, there wasn't really much competition, you know. So it was so much easier to get people into the stadium because there wasn't as much distraction as there is now. So now you're competing against things like social media. There's Netflix at home, there's Showmax, there's this and that, you know. There's so many things that are able to entertain people outside of bringing them to the stadium. And I think that's the offering that we want to basically offer to people, to say there are so many ways of offering sports to people and getting them to the industry. And even I'll take even a typical example of something that's in your space. You know, I'm sure maybe from your side, in terms of the broadcasting, you guys have thought of innovative ways for exclusive content. Well, I would hope that, you know, it's not I know there are certain limitations in terms of what you can show. I know the clubs and the coaches are a bit restrictive on that. But I think it's now the time to actually think outside of the box and say, what are those things that people want to see? You know, there's the Netball World Cup coming up. Will it be the same way as the FIFA World Cup in terms of the content that we consumed? You know, will the LOC or the broadcasters allow cameras into the bus? Will we see the players coming from the hotel singing in the bus? What is the conversation between the coach and the players? What are those emotions? You know, will we get those snippets in the dressing room when the coach is addressing the team during the break? You know, so those are the things that I think are going to come out of this. And as the youth of today, as the Gauteng youth, we're hoping that, you know, we'll be privileged and have the honor of being involved in future tournaments such as those.
I really like what you touched on, Thabang, because you're all right. As a broadcaster, we've really had to change the way we look at things. We are not able to go out there physically to go do things. I have been speaking to the likes of Dumisani on social media, trying to take content that we usually have on television or on radio onto social media. Whether we do it right or not, siyazama at the end of the day, you know. But it's very, very nice to catch up with everyone, to know that during this COVID-19 time, as the youth, we've been chatting, we've been talking. It's not the first time I'm talking to Dumisani. And I like the fact that every single day I'm also watching what Dumisani is doing. So you mentioned something very important, how COVID-19 is going to change the sporting world. I'm already just getting very nervous about it, because we do know that contact sports is not back as yet. Dumisani, Thabang mentioned a very important factor. How do you think this is going to change netball, you know, a simple thing like a coin toss, you know, captain's handshake. How does this change?
How are we going to do the team huddle?
Yeah.
For a game.
Yeah.
Thatho, I wish I had the answers for that.
Yeah.
I guess the impact that we're talking about is actually the reality of it is going to hit us hard when we actually go back. But I'm very interested to see how New Zealand and Australia are doing it. As we've seen on the socials, ANZ is kicking off today
rugby
with the with SSN kicking off on the 1st of August, and we will be seeing some of our South African netball players playing down under in Australia. So it would be great to hear from them and also to watch on TV and see how they do things. And that's how we usually learn. You see someone do something first. If they make the mistakes might be costly, but then it's a learning curve because everyone needs to then adapt to this new normal. I mean, some of the regulations that came out included no change rooms, like restrictions of people going into change rooms, restrictions on number of people in hotel rooms when we stay there, restriction in terms of numbers in the transportation when we travel either to the playing venue or we travel home.
Shoot! We're in this together.
I don't know, hey?
We're in this together. And just, you know, Dumisani as a coach is coming from that side to say it's going to be quite difficult. But with the virtual training that you've been doing whilst we're in lockdown, do you think that is something that has to become a constant in your training sessions as a footballer? Do you think that the virtual training is something that, in all honesty, footballers should be doing after normal training? Is it something you should be including?
Well, I think definitely if the coaches are open to that, I never want to push away any extra training. Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity. It's quite difficult because, you know, you can't have group training sessions and there's only so much that you can really do in your garden at yourself because, especially for football, space is a really big issue. You need space to run, you need space to dribble, you know, passing and stuff like that. So I think it would be good to really work on your skills and such, but I think we just need football back, to be honest.
And Jess, you know, as a footballer, when you're talking to the other girls, and what are the fears that you have with regards to full contact training, returning, finally playing a match? What is the conversation that you guys are having?
Well, in the under-17 team, you know, we're all missing it so much that none of us are really too concerned about what happens if we go back. But when I'm discussing it at home, we were looking at like the NWSL where they are having player villages so that all the teams stay in one area as a safety precaution, and saying, well, why don't we do that for the professional leagues in South Africa? I understand funding is a big issue, but if we want sports to turn, we need to do something about it and not just wait for this thing to blow over because it's going to take so much time, and we don't have that. We don't have that much time.
And you know, Jess, you speak about perhaps sports in South Africa trying to quarantine into camps. Do you think that is the same when it comes to females football?
Yeah, I don't see why we wouldn't do it in females football. You know, it's happening in the WSL, so we should be doing.
No, I was mostly going back to the fact that we are seeing that women's football is on the rise in South Africa, but unfortunately, you guys don't get as much attention as your male football counterparts. Do you think that if we've got the leagues in South Africa going into quarantine and into camp, we would then also see the women's league go into quarantine and into camp?
Yeah, I definitely think that if the women started getting the respect that they're owed by, you know, the important people, that maybe more people would be showing respect to women's sports and we'd have more people watching it and we'd have the money to broadcast and do other things, and that's when we can attract sponsors and the game can grow. But if we're not willing to do anything about it, it's not going to get any better.
And you speak about sponsors. Ipeleng, you spoke about how COVID-19 has definitely made you get in contact with the sponsors, really get to connect with brands. What do you think has been the difference with your positive connection with brands during COVID-19 and before? Do you think that it made it easier for you to connect and relate to the brands that you work with?
Yeah, I think because of, like I said, it's less saturated. They can now, the sponsors as well as the athletes, we've had to go out of our way to meet each other halfway. So I think it's been an amazing ride, like I said, for myself, where I've bagged a couple of good opportunities and good relationships with some sponsors. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of everyone is just thinking out of the box to see how else can we improve. Yeah.
Well, finally, guys, just to finish off this conversation as we continue to celebrate the youth of South Africa, the youth of Gauteng, and try and see how we can grow the youth of South Africa through this time of COVID-19. Final words, Ipeleng, to the young people out there who are probably going through some sort of struggling through a business idea that is really not hitting the mark, or any other sportsman or sportswoman who's trying to get in touch with those brands?
Yeah, like I said, believe in yourself, believe in what you're trying to do, and just do it. I can't say it enough, but even there'll be times when people will be trying to deter you, telling you that like you're wasting your life, and but if you've got a talent, just stay on there and be positive, and trust me, something will eventually happen.
Jess, your message to the youth of Gauteng?
The thing I want to say that I think is most important is, nothing work, and if you're willing to put in the work, then you're going to get the results that you want.
Dumisani?
So I think Jess stole my words, but it's okay. Well, what I was going to say is actually to the youth of South Africa, Gauteng, whether you're in sport or academics or in business, you need to understand that you need to put in the work, do the work, put in the effort, be committed, dedicated to it. Don't even worry about the result. When you do those things, the result will take care of itself.
Thabang?
I think from my side, the main thing is that it's the days of doing the things the tried and tested way when it comes to a sports marketing point of view. Those days are long gone. We now are challenged. We're forced to think outside the box, and so it's a challenge to the federations, to our leagues, to our sponsors, to take this time to reflect and say, we've been doing things a certain way. It's worked. For some of us, it hasn't worked, and let's use this time to actually, demonstrate and develop new strategies and concepts that we can implement and take the sports industry forward.
Guys, thank you so much. It honestly was a pleasure having to chat to all of you from your different corners in the sporting world, especially knowing that it's been a very, very difficult time. It's great to hear that you're all so positive. Hopefully you're as positive throughout the week, and I'd love you to keep this positivity, because this can only flow through to the young people of Gauteng and South Africa. So thank you so much for those words of inspiration today. It honestly was a pleasure having this conversation with you guys.
Thank you so much.
Super. We'd also like to say thank you to the Gauteng Department of Sports, Arts and Culture and Recreation for bringing these trailblazing youth together to share the power growing of South Africa during this torrid time, which is now COVID-19, but most importantly, taking the positives out. My name is Thatho Moeng. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, stay positive, stay healthy and strong.
Thank you so much.